Hi, my name is Neil Josham Pillay, and I am making this presentation on how to create a simple report with SSRS. This is a step-by-step tutorial. For those of you that are unsure as to what SSRS is, it's a tool from Microsoft SQL Server, from Microsoft, which deals with creating reports based on mainly database data, although you can make it from Excel, MS Access, spreadsheets if you have the appropriate ODBC connection. Okay, so let's start up BIDS, Visual Studio's BIDS, which is part of the MS SQL Server suite. So I'm going to go there. I have SQL Server 2008. I'm going to go down to SQL Server Business Intelligent Development Studios and start it up. So it's a customized version of Visual Studios from Microsoft, which will allow you to create reports. So now I'm going to go to File, New, Project, and it's going to create a new project. Working, and then I'm going to click SQL Server Project, and I'm going to create a simple report. Then I'm going to click on OK. Remember, I'm creating a report server project. OK. So now it's creating the necessary files and project files that are going to be associated with my project. The computer's a bit slow, so it might take some time. However, when it starts up, it'll all be fine. Okay, so now, after my project has started up and BIDS has created it, I click on Solution Explorer, Reports, right-click, and click on Add New Item. Then I will go to create a report, which I'm trying to make, and I'm going to name this item Simple Report, and go Add. So now I've created a simple report, or report file, which I've called Simple Report. Note that all report files end with RDL. Okay, and right here is the design field for my report. So based on how I want to make it look, what items I want to add to my report, I'll add them all here. So once you have your design window open in BIDS, you would click on Report Data, Data Sets, and right click and click Add Data Set. Actually, I mean Add Data Source. Your data source is a connection to the data, like your database, your access report, that you're going to use in your report. So I'm going to click Add Data Source, and now a new window opens called Data Source Properties. My data source is going to be called Data Source. The connection type I'm going to use is Microsoft SQL Server, although I could also create connect to data warehouses, OLEDB connections, ODBC connections, XML server models, and all these various other types of data sources. So then, if I don't have a data source on here that I want to use, all I had to do is download the appropriate ODBC driver, and then it will appear here and I'll be able to use it. So now I'm going to connect to my Microsoft SQL Server instance. So I'll go to Edit. I'm going to connect to a local database, so I will say local host refresh. So now I will get a list of all my local databases on this computer. The database I want to use is AdventureWorks 2008 R2. I'll click AdventureWorks 2008 R2. I'm using Windows authentication because my connection to my username and password for the database is same as my Windows and connection. So the way I set it up, so I can test the connection, and I successfully connected to my Windows instance. and now I go to OK. I went to OK. Now I go to OK again. And there we go. Now we have a data source. Now, what is a data set? A data set is basically the data in your data source that you want to access in your report. So, if I go to Add Data Set, I will be presented with dataset properties. What I want to do is access a dataset that doesn't exist through my data source connection. I'm going to go and click on the data source dropdown, click on data source. Note that the data source is the same as the data source instance I created under my data sources folder. So I'm accessing that now, and now I will go to Query Designer. I will have this query box open. I selected text from query type, and I will go to Query Designer. In Query Designer is basically a tool to design queries. The queries will be run on your data source. So right here is the framework writing for my query. I'm going to right click on this Query Designer window, click Add Table, and I'm going to access the table person. However, I'm not restricted to just querying tables. I could also query views, functions, synonyms, etc. But for this example, I'm only going to do this for the person table in my AdventureWorks database. I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to close it. So right here, I have my table that I'm going to query. And as you can see, the query below in the actual written query window says select from person.person. So it's already realizes I'm going to be querying this table. So I want the data first name, middle name, and last name. That's the data I want in this data set. I will click OK. The query is in the query text window. I click OK again, and suddenly my data set is there. Now I'm going to go to my toolbox, drag in the table item, and I have a table that is presented here. However, I want to populate this table with data. So I'm going to go to my data set, drag the first name column over here, and as you can see, I have the table header for this column that says first name, and below I have first name within brackets. I'm going to do the same for middle name and last name. However, and then I'm going to go and preview this table. And now my reports manager is generating the report preview. As you can see, it says loading, and all of a sudden I have a table with my first name, middle name, and last name as the table column names, and I have every single name in the database table data listed in the report. So now let's go back to our design, and I don't want this column header to be called first name. I want it to be called F name. I want this to be M name, and I'll leave the last column as is. Now I'm going to go to preview, and suddenly I have first name as the column name, middle name as the column name, and last name as the column name. But that's not all I can do. I can also alter the text box properties. Say I want to make the background a different color. I'll make it blue. Okay. So I have that column header as blue. Let's go to our preview. And now we have a column header as first name, which is blue, and we still have the same data listed below. By doing this, I can make my table look any way I want, and I have created a simple report. But that's not all. I also have these various other objects I can use in creating my table, to add to how my report looks. I could drag and drop images, general, image name. I could use a particular image. Let's import an image. If I have any, I don't think I have any. Okay, I have this. Open this picture from a war, and I could add images to my report, my simple report. And there we go. We have just created a very simple report using SSRS. And using this, you can create various reports that your customers will find useful in order to please them. I hope this helped you, and stay tuned for more in the future.